and he says this: "It's lovely to imagine that real divinity is the presence in which all beauty, unity, creativity, negativity, and darkness are harmonized." How everything is harmonized together, no matter what it is. It was the founder of Unity, Charles Fillmore, who first said, that I know of, that love is the great harmonizer and the healer. So love, God, source, it is the great harmonizer and healer, because love is also divinity in action. Love is source energy moving through each of us. And so it pours love into everything. That's what it gives of itself. It pours love into everything. We all choose how we use that. Okay, we do. We choose how we use it. But it pours love into everything. And it becomes a harmonizer and a healer, because when we align with the divine within, the first thing that happens is we open ourselves up to embody the Christ consciousness, the allness, the unity consciousness. Now, when we are aligning with the Christ consciousness, the next thing that happens is that we are able to surrender our will to divine will. So we stop needing life and other people to show up in a way that makes us happy, because then when we need that, we're focusing on the conditions to change so we can be happy. But when we are aligning with the divine within us, we are calling forth the Christ consciousness, and we are in harmony with the divine. And this is what allows healing in the body, mind, and spirit. This is also what it means to create heaven on earth. When we are aligned with the divine within us, we make choices that are in harmony with the divine, and we are creating heaven on earth. So today I'm going to be talking about the soul friend, what it means to be a soul friend, what it means to have a soul friend, and how this creates sacred community. And it's about how we are here to help each other show up to life in a way that is in alignment with the divine within us. And of course, we learn best, I think most of us learn best through example. When we see somebody really living a life where there's love and they have peace, it's like I always get curious about what's going on. Like, what are you doing differently? I want to know that. You know, I don't want to hear about inner peace from somebody who's yelling at everybody all the time, right? Now, teacher Yeshua the Christ, this was what he taught, right? He was teaching about being an example. He was not a gatekeeper to these spiritual principles. These are old principles, actually, that he was teaching to his disciples and to anyone who would listen at the time. These were already Gnostic principles. These are already principles from ancient Egypt, that God is all things, right? That God is an indwelling source, right? God, the source, lives within us. And so he was not a gatekeeper. He lived by example, and he kept telling everybody, just do what I do. Do what I do, and then you will do what I do. All these miracles, you'll be able to do even more. So Yeshua the Christ was a true soul friend. Now, I first heard the term soul friend in the book Anam Cara. And Anam Cara is basically, it means soul friend. It's the Gaelic word for soul friend. And a soul friend is someone who sees the light in us. I know I got this in here. Oh yeah, there it is. Okay, no. The soul friend, this is somebody who sees the light in us, even when we are not the best version of ourselves, right? Even when we get up and it just feels like, I have mornings where I just want to be crabby, right? Okay, so this is what the soul friend does for us. They have mercy on us on our bad days, and they give us the benefit of the doubt. This is what Yeshua did, right? He saw the light in everybody, no matter their behavior, no matter their behavior. Now, I do want to give a quick caveat here. You know, we're spiritual people. We like to be spiritual and like to see the light in other people. Now, sometimes, I'm not saying that you guys are all like this, but I definitely have that people pleaser part. And like, I want to see the good in others. And maybe even when they're not willing to do the work themselves, even when I'm willing to bend over backwards and do more for them than they are willing to do. And so to be a soul friend, It does not mean we are here to be a doormat. Okay. And so, but each of us in our own lives, we have to figure that out, right? But we're not here to be a doormat. We're here to be an example. And sometimes that example means not doing too much, right? Being careful about what we're giving. I can remember one time I was driving up through Redlands, and it was like high summer. It was like in the hundreds, and I see a rattlesnake going across the road. Okay, I had mercy. It is a life form on our planet. I drove around it. What I did not do was pull over, because snakes don't belong on the road. Somebody else might drive over him. I didn't walk up to the rattlesnake and pick it up, because what would a rattlesnake do if you picked it up? No matter your intention. It's like, why'd you bite me? I know I would have done that. Why'd you bite me? I was just trying to save your life. Like I would have felt that way. I've been like, stupid snake. Okay, so some relationships do deserve distance. So you don't have to drive over that rattlesnake, but I highly suggest that you don't get out of your car to move it off of the road and into a place of safety. So this is for each of us to decide where we set our boundaries. Not everyone will be a soul friend to us. Not everyone will recognize what we have to give, like how much love we have to share. Okay, so there's my caveat for this whole talk. In the book of John, this is how important this all was to Yeshua. A new commandment I give you, that you must love others as I have loved you. Yeshua loved like a soul friend, right? How did he love? He first of all aligned with the divine within, and then he saw that divine spark in every person. And he actually hung out with every person like that he could. It didn't matter. It didn't matter their status in the community. He hung out with the criminals too. I mean, we hear about that, right? Okay, so he was just living by example, his sacred mission. He's just going around telling everybody, like, look at what I can do. You could do this too. You know, I'm not doing these miracles. He told that to everybody. He's like, it's not me, it's the Father within doing all this stuff. And if you just pay attention to what I'm doing, I'm going to show you how you can keep doing all this. So it turns out, like, he was among the people, he was sharing this among the people, and that's because relationships are actually very important to our spiritual and our personal growth. Relationships, because we do not learn about inner peace in isolation. Okay, where life is really easy and all the conditions of our life are perfectly how we want them. We don't learn about inner peace in the perfect scenario. We learn about inner peace through the conflict in our lives. Okay, just like we don't learn about compassion in isolation. We learn about compassion because in our life, we either found ourselves getting really judgmental towards someone who's just really pushing our buttons, or we experienced having somebody being very judgmental toward us when they didn't know the whole story, right? So we learn about compassion through our interactions with other people that contain judgment. Okay, how about forgiveness? We cannot learn forgiveness in isolation. We learn forgiveness because somebody in our life betrayed us. Somebody hurt us. Maybe what they did, we felt great shame. Right? So we're learning about forgiveness because of another person in our environment that did something. Now, the story of The Little Soul in the Sun by Neale Donald Walsch, this is why I love this story so much. It's a kid's book. It's getting harder to find. So I would recommend, I have a copy. I think I have actually two copies, one for here and one for home. But it's basically about a little soul, and he figures out that he's not going to learn anything when he's perfectly in the light, and all he knows is light and love. He has no idea what it's not, right? What it means to not be in the light and love. So he does some exploring. He gets curious. He finds out he can come to planet Earth, and he can learn about anything he wants to. So he chooses what, in my opinion, is the highest, toughest, most advanced lesson any of us can learn. Well, at least any I could learn. And that's forgiveness. He decides to come to this planet and learn forgiveness. And of course, we can't learn forgiveness in isolation. So he invites a friend of his to come along And she says, yeah, that she'll do it. But he has to do one thing for her. And he asks her, yeah, anything. And she says, in that moment, when I am doing something very terrible to you, I'm going to have to forget who I am in order to do that. So I need you to remember who I am. Because if you forget who I am, it means you've already forgotten who you are. And then we are both lost. Okay? We need other people to discover our truest self. It's how our interactions with each other are how we are able to call forth the divine at work through us in bigger ways. So we need other people, but you know what? They also need us. They need us. I always love this quote. This came from one of Carolyn Mace's workshops. It's not in a book, but it was in a workshop. Somewhere someone is going to a seminar to get over you. And I actually did have this experience in my life. A friend shared it with me one time when she got mad at me. She calls me and is like, I've been journaling about you for days. We worked it out. I always trusted her after that because she would tell me if she was mad at me instead of just ghosting me. Like I always knew, it's like, oh, she's always going to tell me the truth. I love it. Okay. But this is the power of love in our sacred community, right? We're learning from each other. We're giving each other the opportunity to see the divine in all people, in all situations. Now, I do want to share that it's not about being like-minded. It is about being open-hearted. It's about being open-hearted. Okay, remember, Yeshua hung out with everybody. And he was calling forth, he was sharing what at that time was a hidden spiritual tradition that only the Gnostics knew about. They weren't just sharing it with everybody. Yeshua was sharing it with the lay people. He was sharing it with the average people. He was sharing it with the criminals who were struggling and suffering. He was sharing it with everybody. Okay, so the power of love is about having an open and welcoming heart. Now, like-mindedness has its place. It definitely has its place. I know for me, as I've been doing a deep dive into doing a wellness program for myself, I've had to do a lot of research. I had one person say to me, and I know he meant well, but he's like, you just have to intuitively eat. Let your body tell you what it wants. Now, my body will tell me pizza. Like right now, if my body was to intuitively tell me what to have to eat, I would be pancakes. Okay. Now, sometimes when our brain needs retraining. It really does. And so intuitive eating would not work for me right now. I'm not going to say it doesn't work for people. I don't really think it worked that well for him either. Okay. But this is where like-minded is very helpful, right? I want to talk with people who have the education, and they have something to share that's in common with what I'm dealing with, right? And so the thing is I share this because in spiritual communities, and I have said this tons of times, like, oh, if you come to Unity, like we're like-minded, we're like-minded, you can be with your like-minded group. And that's not always true exactly. We might have spiritual things in common with each other, but then have a lot of other things that we're not in common, right? But see, there's this idea of safety with being in a like-minded group. And so sometimes someone with what they would call weird spiritual ideals, they feel really happy to find a group that's like, oh yeah, like I get that. And they do feel accepted because at their previous group, they were not like-minded. And so they were not accepted. This actually happened to me when my daughter was 2, my son was 4. I was real excited about joining a homeschooling mama group because I was just wanting company. And I thought it was a like-minded group because homeschooling, and they were like, come together with your like-minded mamas. We all love homeschooling. And so I thought that, oh, we'll just love each other on every level. It'll be an accepting group. But it turned out that I was excluded from a lot of things because of my spiritual beliefs. So I was excluded. And so being in a like-minded group does not always guarantee you'll be accepted. So when we are looking for a like-minded group for social connection, and then we end up changing our mind, we may no longer be held in that circle of belonging. Okay, so like-minded, like I would say, no, open and accepting heart. I am a carnivore, but there are people I love so much who are veggie-sauruses. And I love them and I support them in that. And they don't say anything to my face about what I do. Right? Because it's about being open-hearted and accepting. Okay, we're all doing the best we can. We need each other. That's really what this comes down to. We need each other because we learn through our relationships how to love like God, how to love by calling forth our soul into the relationships. And so then we start seeing as God sees, the divine spark in every person. We see that all are worthy of our love, all are the light. All are the light. This is from the philosophy of Ubuntu, which can basically, this is how they summarize it if you seek out information about it. It is, I am because we are. I am because we are. We are learning how to see all are one. That's what we're learning. We know it intellectually, like when we study a spiritual path like this, we know, okay, well, if God is everywhere present, it's infinite. Well, of course, all are one, because there's no place that God is not, right? But we are practicing this then by seeing the divine in others. And so when we really live this, it shapes our identity as a soul bringing love into this world. It expands our empathy. And we move from being in service to our ego, where it's more important than we be right than share love with other people. And we focus on our whims and our wishes, like that's what's most important. And then we move into being of service for the highest good of everybody. Right? Looking into the world, like what could I call into the world right now that would add more love and light into this world, that would add a little more kindness? What could I do right now? And when I say being of service and living in service, I used to really hate this word because I thought it meant I had to do really hard work that I didn't want to do. But actually, that would be servitude. That's servitude. If we feel like we are trapped into doing something we don't really want to do, but we don't want people to say, that we're not being of service and that we don't care about people, right? Service, it can end up being very physical work, but I know people who are in service and they do really difficult things, but they want to. That's really what it comes down to. They want to do it. They're choosing to do that. Okay, so it turns out that being of service, it would include witnessing the divine in others. That's what it is. We're witnessing the divine in others. We're holding that light for them, even when they forget. Because there will be a day when we forget. And it will be so nice to have somebody hold that light for us. That feels very, very good when somebody remembers that for us. So our only job really is to align with the divine within us, because then we are guided what to do next. And then we get to demonstrate the good that comes from that inner alignment. So we are shifting our attention to the light within ourselves. When we shift the attention to the light within us, then we up level our game. Like we're able to show up with even more light, right? We can carry even more light. We can call forth even more love, right? We become a force for good for each other. That's what we're doing. We become a force for good for each other. So this is the power of being a soul friend, of having a soul friend, and creating a sacred community to learn all of this stuff with. Because, it's easy to do this right here and now. But at some point, we're going to get up one morning and we're going to deal with people we don't agree with on every level. And we may not even like them very much. And it's so nice to just remember, okay, God is all things, and that means me. How can I call forth greater light into the world right now? How can I be of service? So here's our call to action. We'll start with our affirmation. And we'll say this together. I am a blessing to others by shining my light. Two more times. I am a blessing to others by shining my light. I am a blessing to others by shining my light. You know, we have, there might be people in your life. I don't know that you would do this. I would do it. Though I would say, yeah, there are some people out there that are the rattlesnake right now. You know, they're spreading, they've got some poison. Okay. But I remind myself, okay, if I'm seeing that in them, that means like I want to be careful. I'm not sharing poison. Okay. We're not here to be, you know, a spreader of poison and discontent. We're here to be the butterfly, right? The butterfly, I learned something about it not too long ago, but they fly around the world. They actually, the monarch butterflies, so they go down to like way down South America, right? Isn't it way down South America? A fragile little butterfly who, like, if it gets in front of a car or something, like, you know, and so a butterfly is simply surrendering to the divine. That's all. It surrenders to the divine. It's not trying to force. It's not like looking at a map and saying, you know, we can find someplace a lot closer, you all. I don't think we should try to get all the way down to Rio de Janeiro, right? It just surrenders to the divine. It is what it is. It is shining its light. That's what it's doing. It's surrendered to the divine at work within it, and off it goes. Off it goes. Okay, so this is from Rabbi Berg, Rabbi Michael Berg. You have the same essence and therefore the same potential as God. You are destined to become like God. So keep asking yourself, am I like God yet? Am I like God yet? I know the first time I read this book, Becoming Like God, and I read that and I was like, oh, he's speaking to me. This is all about me, right? Because I do a lot of inner work. So a lot of things are all about me, or the people who wrong me. But I read this and it was like, I have the same essence and therefore I have the same potential as God. I am destined to become like God. But then as I went through this again, I was like, Rabbi Berg is a soul friend to all of us. There are, I don't know how many copies of this book out there. And he said to each and every person that read this book, you have the same essence and therefore the same potential as God. You, he said this to how many people, right? So we are all destined to become like God. Keep asking yourself, am I like God yet? It is our interactions with each other in recognizing the light and the value and the worth in another person because they carry the God spark, because they are an expression of the divine walking around in a body right now. And Rabbi Berg did this. He recognized the light in anybody. A criminal could pick up that book, maybe in prison, reading this book, and that person could realize, whoa, he's talking to me. He sees that in me. Crazy. Nobody's ever seen that in me before. So here's our invitation for this week. Of course, we know at some point we're going to get up and we're going to have to decide, am I seeking out the divine or am I seeking out something else? I know I asked myself this last week. I was like, I am actually seeking out a way to be, annoyed. I did. I was like, oh, I made assumptions and I took things personally. And so I had to ask, all right, this person, how can I see them like God? How can I see the divine spark in them? Right? So we need each other. Again, we need each other because we're learning to love God through each other. So this might be a question that we ask. How can I see the world right now as God sees? There's a lot going on this planet. How would God see the world? It's an everywhere presence, meaning solutions can come from surprising places. How can I love this world right now as God loves? Right? How can I hold the planet, the entire planet, in the light? How can I do that right now? There's something, this is not just a weird random coincidence that we're all here together. There's something that brought us here. There's something that gave us to each other right here in this time to have these experiences together. Now, when we practice the art of being a soul friend and receiving a soul friend into our light, when we practice the art of sacred community, when we practice the art of being open-hearted, that's when something greater is created through us and out into the package of our life, where it can affect other people, where other people can receive it. And then they can send it on. They can send it on. Because this is how we are creating heaven on earth. So until next time, remember, you are divinely designed to be doing all of this. You are a one-time, one-of-a-kind cosmic event. God, the source universe, is expressing through you in a wholly unique way for the benefit of you, but also for the benefit of everybody else in your life. In everything you do, you are blessed, and so it is. So it is. Thank you. Okay, we're going to do something just a little bit different because Dave needs to head out early to get our food. All right, so we're going to do our closing